and dying for Allah is the greatest good. That's their slogan. This is not me saying this. This is them saying this about themselves. They're incredibly dangerous. And by the way, they have really spent a lot of time and effort in Europe and the United States. The largest Islamic organizations in the U.S., CARE, the student organizations, are part of the Muslim Brotherhood. They're associated with the Muslim Brotherhood. And also, very dangerously, they are really involved in the jails. Most people who convert to Islam in the jails do it under the auspices of the Muslim Brotherhood, and 35 to 40,000 people a year are converting to Islam in our jails. And the latest estimates are that 15% of the total population in jails are actually Muslim, and it's a direct response directly because
fascinating.
The Muslim Brotherhood has been converting them. Yeah,
that is fascinating. Donald Trump signed an executive order.
Muslim Brotherhood recruiting 30,000 people per year. I mean, it's just unbelievable, man. They coming over, man. You better not come over here with that with me, man. I might haul off and start swinging, punching you in your. I might haul off and punch you dead in your noggin, man. Please, man, don't bring that over to me, especially when I know it's a trick. Do not bring that over to me. All right. This is how I'm feeling. I'm feeling like the senator right here.
When you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools.
There's an old political proverb that says, when the town crier whispers, the tyrant shouts. So before we dive in, hit like, share, and subscribe to Uncensored Headlines. And grab a drink of your choice, whether it's coffee, whiskey, water, shampoo, for the future of this country, more than they want.
In my opinion, fell short of the mark. Number two, frankly, I don't know why the president felt the need to tweet on this subject at all. When you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools. They hate America. They think America was wicked in its origins, and it's even more wicked today. They ought to be thanking America instead of calling America evil and wicked and racist. But this is America, and they have the right to their opinion. But I don't like to see the president even dignify their point of view. Besides that, I think that the Squad, as they call themselves, they are destroying the Democratic Party. When your opponent is screwing up, don't interrupt him. Let him go. I mean, just looking at this from a political standpoint, if I didn't know better, I would think the members of the Squad were GOP plants. I mean, they think that illegal immigration, socialism, higher taxes, abortion are all moral goods. They think America, Israel, free enterprise are moral bads. That's not what most Americans believe. And that's kind of where I am on the subject. The president has explained his position. He has said, look, here's what I meant. If you're not happy living in America, leave. I agree with that assessment. When you argue with a fool,
not just people who say bad things, but people who are actual terror supporters, act in ways that are conducive to actual terror groups. I wanted to give you a moment to sort of explain the approach that the State Department is taking in taking a look at, for example, student visa holders. And what are the standards that are being used to determine whether somebody should stay in the United States or should go? Because obviously opponents of the administration are arguing it's violations of free speech. People have the ability to say what they want. That's not an argument that the administration is actually arguing with. The administration is not trying to crack down on free speech. You're trying to actually stop something else.
Yeah, well, let's start with the baseline. Okay, no one is entitled to a student visa to enter the United States. No one. It's not a constitutional right. It's not a law. We every day, consular officers on the ground in face-to-face interviews are denying people visas for all kinds of reasons. Because we think you're going to overstay, because we think your family member is a member of a drug ring, whatever it may be. We deny visas every day all over the world. No one's entitled to a visa. Let's start with that. Because I hear some of this reporting out there, like if somehow you're allowed to have a visa unless we can come up with a reason why you shouldn't have one. That's not true. The burden of proof is the other way. Now, let's say you go to a window somewhere in the world and say, I want to go to the United States to study at a university. And as part of that interview, it comes out, you think Hamas is actually a good group. We probably would not let you in. I would hope we wouldn't let you in. Okay. But let's say we don't ask you that question and you get into the U.S. on a student visa and all of a sudden it becomes obvious you think Hamas is a good group. Well, then we should revoke your visa. In essence, if we would have if we'd learned things about you once you're here that would have caused us to deny you a visa when you were overseas, that's grounds for revocation. It is not in the national interest of the United States. It's not in our foreign policy interest. It's not in our national security interest to invite people onto our university campuses who are not just going to go there to study physics or engineering, but who are also going to go there to foment movements that support and excuse foreign terrorist organizations who are committed to the destruction of the United States and the killing and the kidnapping of innocent civilians, not just in Israel, but anywhere they can get their hands on them. That's not in our national interest. So we have a right to deny visas before you get here, and we have a right to revoke them if we believe that your presence in our country undermines our national interest, our national security, and our foreign policy. And that's what we intend to do. Now, listen, there are other student visas that are being canceled that have nothing to do with us, by the way. And that has to do with someone, for example, who is here on a student visa and has a DUI. And I don't know, that's not us, that's DHS. But I don't know if people realize if you commit a crime while you're in the U.S., that's an automatic grounds for revoking your visa. And no one was ever doing it. They weren't cross-referencing the system. Now they're starting to do that. So that's the majority of these. But we have identified, I can't tell you the exact number because it's static and it's constantly moving. But when someone is presented to me and it's clear that this person is a supporter of a foreign terrorist organization, we're going to remove them from the country. You're not going to be here. It's just that simple. What a stupid thing. What a ridiculous thing to invite people in your country so they can be part of these movements that are terrorizing fellow students, tearing up campuses, shutting down campuses. We have campuses in America that couldn't even operate for weeks. People couldn't go to class. Are we crazy? What other country in the world would allow this? We shouldn't allow it.
Secretary Rubio, I think that the controversy that's arisen over, for example, the detention of Mahmoud Khalil, who is one of these students at Columbia University, who has a green card, but who was also engaged in protest activities that violated the law, who obviously was sympathizing openly with terror attacks by Hamas and all the rest of this. The sort of controversy here, there's a common thread to the opposition to the Trump administration on this stuff, which is, as you mentioned, this bizarre idea that people are somehow owed entry to the United States. I think that ties in very strongly to the Democrats' new approach to what's going on with this Salvadoran migrant who's now been deported to El Salvador. The administration has taken a legal position that basically now that he's in Salvadoran custody, that it's up to the Salvadorans whether to return this person to the United States or not for further due process concerns. But that's really not the case that's being made by opponents of the administration. Many of the opponents of the administration are making a more significant case, which is the idea that basically if you get into the United States, you are somehow owed a permanent status in the United States. And you're seeing this across the board, ranging from the Trump administration's moves to get rid of temporary protected status for people who have entered en masse under the Biden administration to the resistance to DHS or the State Department making moves with regard to the tens of millions possibly of illegal immigrants who've been brought into the country by the Biden administration. There's this bizarre supposition that everyone on earth is somehow owed passage to the United States and permanent membership in our society.
Yeah, and I think it explains to you why we have the immigration crisis that we had. And it was the belief, they would all say, we believe we should have immigration laws, of course, but if you get into the United States, you should be allowed to stay. If you make it here illegally, no matter how you got here, then you should be allowed to stay. I mean, I think that mindset that's being revealed in these cases tell you how you get 12, 13, 14, 20 million people entering the country unlawfully and illegally over the last few years because of this mindset that, yeah, we have immigration laws, but we don't really mean it. Once you get in, you should be allowed to stay here indefinitely, and we have some sort of obligation to accommodate you here in the country. That's how you create this mindset that led to that crisis. And people know it. It's all incentive based. People believed under Joe Biden, rightfully they believed, if I could just get across the border, I'm going to get to stay. Absolutely right. And I mean, there's a reason why no one's coming now. You know, one of the problems I'm facing right now with countries in the Central America and the Western Hemisphere? U-turns. A lot of people were headed here. They realized Trump was serious. They made a U-turn, and now these countries are complaining, oh, they're stuck in my country. Well, you facilitated their transit for years. Now they're stuck with them as a result of it. But that's actually happening. Why? Because the incentives are no longer to come. The incentives are not to come. It's been successful. It's the most secure border we've had in my lifetime. I mean,
there you go. The most secure border we have had in our lifetime. You know, and you know, these people think that they have a clear license to come over here, and when they get over here, we're just supposed to just let them stay. No, I think not.
It's finally happening. We're deporting Somalians. It only took over $1 billion being stolen from taxpayers to happen, but hey, better late than never, I guess. Trump even went on air and called the country of Somalia garbage, and let me let you in on a little secret. Come here. He's right. They come from a terrible country that nobody wants to live in. That's why they leave. They come here and then they complain, and they don't do anything but drain the system. 88% of Somalian immigrants are on welfare. You guys remember Ben Stiller, the actor with the big ears and the huge nose? Well, he made a post about it. He goes, guys, Somalians aren't garbage. Okay, they're refugees and they're humans just like us. And I have a counterpoint for you, Ben. You live in gated communities in multi-million-dollar mansions, and you don't have to deal with these people at all. So how about this? Until you open one of your numerous multi-million-dollar houses to them, to house them, shut up. Because people who actually contribute to the system, who pay taxes, who work for a living, and who have to deal with these people, we don't want them here. I don't want to hear the call to prayer played in the streets. I don't want to walk outside and see people praying in the parking lots and on the roads. Do that in the privacy of your own home. I don't want to call tech support and have an Indian person who doesn't speak English trying to help me with my problems. I don't want to walk around and see signs in both English and Spanish. That's not assimilation. So if you're refusing to concede to those points, it's finally happening. We're deporting Somalians. It only took over $1 billion being stolen from taxpayers.
Dude ain't lying. Come on, man. Come on, man. You people got to go. What are you talking? What are y'all doing? What is this about, man? I mean, come on, man. And you calling it using the playbook, using our playbook against us. Yo, bro, we not with none of that, bro, at all, man. We're just not with it, man. We're done with it, man. Look how they took your job.
Their jobs. It wasn't called training or replacement. It was called knowledge transfer.
Craig D'Angelo worked for Northeast Utilities, now called Eversource, and was one of 220 IT workers replaced by H-1B visa employees.
And just multiply this by hundreds of thousands. So now we have these jobless, underemployed American citizens, so we can import hundreds of thousands of third world migrants who have no affinity to America or our culture or our values. They never assimilate. They're not even supposed to stay. The whole point of an H-1B visa is 3 years, maybe extendable to 6 years. And then they're supposed to go home, but they do not. They don't go home. They stay like an un-American cancer in our body politic because we give them green cards or we let them transition to some other visa category that lets them stay. And then we make them paperwork American citizens like Dinesh D'Souza. Scratch them and you find another Indian ethno-fascist. Why do we need those in America?
D'Angelo
Take their jobs. It wasn't called training or replacement. It was called knowledge transfer.
Craig D'Angelo worked told him he was making half D'Angelo's salary with no benefits.
I didn't
No benefits.
want to be a black.
Her from India told him he was making half D'Angelo's salary with no benefits.
I didn't
No benefits. On some of these visa categories, they don't have to pay FICA. for these employees. That saves the company another 15% on top of the 50%. And we're supposed to believe the reason they're hiring these people, often at entry-level positions, by the way, often at menial positions, is because Americans are incapable of doing these jobs. No, at 35% of the pay.
From India told him he was making half the
Wants to be a black.
girl from India.
You've seen this abuse. You've seen this affect American workers?
Oh, yes. Thousands and thousands of American workers. And it's not coming off 5 years of unemployment line. These are workers that have been working decades in these companies who are doing a great job, nothing against them in their employment file, and they're being told by the hundreds. They get together and say, hey, all of you are being fired. You're all being replaced by these new workers. In the end, the workers are paid a lot less, and the bonuses at the end of the year for those CEOs go up dramatically. The foreign workers, like you said, have to have that visa support by the employer. So how are they going to change jobs if they're being paid little and they're being worked to death and the conditions are not great? But what are they going to do? They're stuck with those employers. So they are suffering. And the winner in this isn't the foreign worker. The winner is not the American worker. It's the CEO and the executives who are making millions of dollars off of this.
America as a nation has sovereignty over our borders and our territory. We get to control who comes in and who doesn't, not the corporations. And Americans' government is supposed to be serving the interest of the American people, not the whole world, not the third world, not India, and not corporate executives. The American people. Absolutely.
You've seen this abuse. You've seen this affect American workers?
Oh, yes. Thousands and thousands of American workers.
Take their jobs. It wasn't called training your replacement.
Most alarmingly, a lot of that money is funneled through money traders, and in the end, ends up in the hands of al-Qaeda-linked Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab. So to bring this full circle, the Minnesota taxpayers are funneling money through fraudulent autism claims back to Somalia, where that money lands in the accounts of
Ladies and gentlemen, we got big news coming out of Minnesota as, again, for many years, many voters in the United States have pointed to Minnesota as getting out of control because the head congresswoman out there from a very popular district full of Somalis is Somalian herself.
You see what's going on. You see what's happening. We are at a point in time to where we are going to have to truly stand up. You know, we're going to have to cut through the fat. We're going to have to take off the gloves. We cannot keep allowing these leftist Marxists, you know, continue to fracture our political infrastructure. And the thing is that, you know, we want change with our political system, but, you know, we don't want our political system to be just conquered and taken over, you know, by a foreign agent. We don't want that. We don't want our